Hi everyone, so this is one of the Chisholm group videos for Chisholm Services for Children, which we all participated at. So this is a community-based care for children age 12 and under with complex needs through therapeutic, residential, and non-residential programs. This organization helps children transition successfully into their communities. So some of the um, models of care that we observed there were three-pillar trauma-informed care. So Edmund talks about focusing on safety, connections, and empowerment for these children. Another one that we've all experienced is evidence-based practice model. So using the Children's Aid Society theory, we use research practitioner expertise and client preferences to guide these interventions when working with these youth at Chisholm. Another big one is nonviolent crisis intervention, connected to Campbell, which provides training in prevention, de-escalation, and safety-focused prevention. So just making sure that the kids are safe when having these dysregulations. The last one we looked at was relational care model from the Fundamentals of Care framework, which emphasizes in authentic connections, empowerment, and trauma-informed care for the youth through personalized interventions, transparent communication, and fostering children's strengths. I'm going to pass it on to Addison now to talk about the praxis.
Thank you, Anna. That was a great summarization of what they do at Chisholm. All right, so I was able to see, and I'm sure we all were as well, the staff and students, so all of us on placement during the time that I was at Chisholm, I was able to see many theories put into practice. Sorry, I started a little bit there. Um, One theory that I seen regularly, like every single day, was the characteristics of child and youth care. So, for example, everyone regularly practiced the hanging out characteristic by just spending time and hanging out with the kids, like doing exactly as it says. It's pretty self-explanatory. Like we would watch movies with the kids, we would play video games with the kids, just watch them play the video games. And even though this might not seem like a whole lot, like especially to an outside source, it actually can mean a whole lot to the kids in the way that there is just someone there with them and they know there's someone there for them, even like whether they're having a conversation or just sitting silently. Um, so yeah, it might not seem a lot, but it actually does mean a whole lot. Um, and then another theory that I personally was able to connect was operant conditioning, which we haven't really talked about a whole lot since like the first semester, but I was able to put this to put this see this in action, I guess is what I'm trying to say, um, by them rewarding and giving consequences out for good and bad behavior. Um, so, like, for example, if the kids would refuse to go to school, they would get put on a school refusal list and they wouldn't get any technology throughout the day. So, that would be like the consequences for the bad behavior. And then, an example of like positive reinforcement on that same note is if the kids would like offer to do chore checks, so they would get an opportunity to do extra chores and they could get $1 added on to their a weekly allowance. So those are a couple of the theories that I seen put into practice there, and also some of the ones that I did put into practice. And I will pass it on to Mackenzie to talk about a personal experience.
Okay, so one of the personal, like what I'm going to talk about is the therapy use of play and how that is really important to incorporate into your practice, especially at Chisholm. It was used a lot with that age range. And I saw it in a lot of ways, whether that was playing games, board games, cooking, baking, reading stories at bedtime, things like that. But one instance that really stuck out for me was during transition period. Two youths and a youth care worker wanted to play this game that they typically play, where one of them is blindfolded and the others would run around the area that they set out, which was usually the main floor of the house, and they would try and not get caught. It was basically like blindfolded hide and seek tag kind of thing. And so this was a way to keep the youth regulated and busy during this transition period while waiting for other people to return to the house, um, but also allow the youth to have that one-on-one time with the staff that they crave. And I'll pass it on to Megan.
All right. So one of the experiences that I linked mostly to theory at Chisholm was probably when I met a youth who often used like racial slurs when he got dysregulated, especially towards like the black staff I found. And this kind of relates to the theory of attachment. It discusses that attachment behaviors are learned through experiences, positive interactions, um, while neg- while negative experiences can lead to harmful behaviors. In this case, the youth likely didn't use racial slurs because they had racist beliefs, but because they learned this behavior from their environment. The theory also explains that behaviors are formed over time based on what happens after the behavior. So in this case, the youth likely didn't use racial slurs because they believed in them, but because it became a habit. And it also discusses how when you have a strong response to like negative or positive behaviors, you're more likely to engage in those behaviors as well. So when the staff would get a little upset or show that they were a little bit hurt by what the youth said, that might have driven him to continue those behaviors. Another thing I seen was just like for myself setting boundaries. There was a situation where I had a youth who frequently liked to like touch my face and like squeeze it, and he also liked to like enjoyed touching me, just tickling me, which I allowed at first, but over time this became really uncomfortable for me, especially when he would tickle me for extended periods of time. I kind of related this to our professionalism, particularly when it's discussing modeling appropriate interpersonal boundaries and professional behavior with the youth we work with.
Awesome. So that is kind of the way Chisholm, we've reflected on Chisholm as a practicum. So thank you so much.